So does God play dice? Right, that's the title of this video. So in this video, what I'll be doing is basically sharing some very deep and personal, kind of opinions about the deepest questions. I have done a lot of videos about the deep questions, the big questions, the fundamental nature of reality, my views on them, and so on and so forth. But uh, what sets this video apart from those videos is that in those videos, I was mostly, constraining myself. By the knowledge of known science. I mean, because I have some views about reality, and by reality I don't mean physics or theoretical physics or the fundamental nature of the universe or space time or quantum gravity. Of course, that those topics are at the very deep, like the deepest level of reality, no doubt. But in this video, I'll be talking about reality and the world as I see it, and that doesn't really only confine to the fundamental physics and theoretical physics part. That can also relate to the world around me, how I view life, not just how I view theoretical physics, but how I view life. So I've done videos like this previously as well, as I told you. But there are two main differences which I'll quickly let you know before I embark on this video, because embark on this discussion. One difference is that in most of my previous videos, either the video is about technical physics or just the physics aspect, the scientific theoretical physics aspect, or the video is it is about the my personal views on some life events or social, I don't know, like more day to day life events and my views on humanity or human life and that kind of thing. Second difference is, and this is very important, in most of my previous videos I have somewhat constrained myself. I have prevented, I have kind of avoided sharing my deepest feelings, my not feelings, my deepest opinions, my deepest views, because not all of my deepest views are backed by science, and I wanted to keep my videos as scientifically grounded as possible, and I will continue to do that for my future videos. But for this video, let's take a little bit of freedom, and let me just share my deepest views. Some of these views might be disturbing, might seem weird, might even seem illogical, and yeah, these are not all of them are like established scientific facts, but I'll still share this with you anyway. Because again, the reason I'm doing this is I want I think I have shared this in one of my previous videos, but that was a video long back when my channel was not much less popular than it is today. So it's likely that many of you who are watching this video, they have they have missed that, so I'll just reiterate once more. The reason I'm doing this is that, and the reason I have released some few personal videos, like videos on about my personal views on life and so on and so forth previously as well. The reason is that it feels very kind of liberating when I speak these words out aloud in front of the camera. I'm just sitting in my room alone. The background is the ocean, but I'm actually in my room, of course. So I'm sitting in my room alone, and there is nobody here. And right now, the time, if I could show the time, it's 4:35 in the morning. Like I was doing some work the entire night, and I decided to record a video because I can only, these kind of videos you can only do when inspiration strikes. It's not like a routine job, like you can just sit in front of a camera. I mean, for the best results, that does not work. That does not give the best results. My point is, I'm doing this because it feels very liberating to speak these words out aloud. Number one, and I don't have. I won't say I don't have anybody I cannot confide in. I do have a few friends and my parents. I mean, I do have a very few, but I do have some people in my life with whom I can openly discuss this stuff. I know they will not judge me or anything, but it still feels very awkward discussing these things one on one with a real human. I'm more comfortable just recording in front of a camera, because right now I'm not talking, I'm not physically interacting with a real human being. I know many of you will be listening to this discussion, will be will be watching this video, and I'm also, see, I'm not really afraid of sharing my views. If that was the case, I would not have recorded a public YouTube video about this. I'm not afraid of sharing my views, and I'm not afraid of constructive criticism, or even criticism in general. I'm not afraid of that. I want you guys to comment on my video, you guys to give me feedback, not just praise me like this guy is doing good, it's a good video, it's a very great video. Not just that. If you find something you do not agree with, please comment it in my videos. Not just there are some comments I used to receive, and even today I receive. Clearly those comments are made just to totally irrelevant and kind of in a wrong way. The attitude is wrong, kind of uh, I won't say, it's kind of insulting actually, if you think about it. Not that, but constructive criticism, feedback, discussion, I always look forward to that, because I learn a lot in the process. Because whatever I will be sharing is are my biased personal views, right? So I need to be challenged for these views to evolve, and that way both of us learn. It's not just me who is benefited. So anyway, okay, the background is actually this was a picture captured by me. It was in I think it was in a beach in Chennai. I forgot the name. It's most likely it was Iliot Beach, Bisant Nagar Beach in Chennai. I was in Chennai for a research fellowship, research internship last month only. Institute of Mathematical Sciences, IMSC Chennai, and then I visited this, and this photo was actually captured in the evening, in the night actually, like it was 8 p.m. I mean in the evening only, and it was very dark, and it's a very beautiful image. And the reason I chose this as my virtual background for this video is that whenever you look at the ocean, at the sea, at the ocean, and all these waves come, waves are like very beautiful to me personally, because waves you know it's very good balance between order and chaos, or I should say order and randomness. That's the title of this video. Does God play dice? So whenever you're looking at waves, over a long period of time, if you kind of analyze the motion of the waves on the sea, there is a pattern. Like full moon and then half moon, and I mean all those things, the tidal patterns. During the full moon, the wave is follows a. I mean, over the year, the waves follow a pattern, and that there is order in that. It's kind of deterministic. You don't that doesn't change frequently. I mean, that doesn't change at all for practical purposes. Maybe after a million years, even the Earth would not exist. So that's a different thing. And even don't have to think about the moon or lunar tides and everything. Even if you look at the waves keep coming. So there is a pattern in that. There is a kind of predictable order. You won't expect the waves to suddenly stop coming. They keep coming one after other, and grossly there is a gross pattern. There is a gross order. But if you look at the waves individually, then you see that it's totally like turbulence, hydrodynamics, fluid mechanics, turbulence. Why is it such a complicated field? Because fluids are very complicated due to turbulence, especially if it's beyond Reynolds number. I mean, I won't go into fluid mechanics in this video, but it's very complicated and you cannot predict it. It's kind of random. It's kind of random. I mean, it's not totally. You cannot predict the waves. You can overall predict the motion of the waves or the patterns of the waves. Of course, we do that. It's part of weather forecasting. Also, we do that, but you cannot predict the exact behavior and the exact, you cannot simulate the exact wave as they come. I mean, there is some amount of randomness. It's so much, it's affected by a lot of factors. If you look at the waves near the beach, near the shore, the seashore, there are a lot of boats, fishermen, lot of people, and they are jumping and playing in the beach and playing in the sea. They are taking a bath or something, and that affects it in complex ways, which you cannot easily control or easily kind of simulate or analyze or model. And even apart from that, there's a lot of these sea waves, ocean waves. It's a very complicated phenomenon. It's a lot of subject to a lot of factors, a lot of external factors, which overall make it very complicated and almost impossible to predict. I mean, in principle, impossible to predict. In theory, if that's whether or not that's possible is open to question. And yeah, I like this concept of ocean and waves, because the farther you go into the ocean, away from the shore, the ocean becomes very kind of calmer than its I mean, the largest waves are usually not in the middle of the sea. The middle of the sea is usually calm, eternal silence of the sea, right? So, and that, to me, that's like the farther I am from humans, the more stable I am emotionally, mentally, more stable I am. I mean, it's not just for me. I think many of you have this feeling. Yes, some of you may be more extrovert, more, some of you might have more extroversion than others, and everything. That's true. I mean, we have some inherent traits in us. Some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted, but I think all of us desire solitude at some point of time or the other. There are times when all of us feel. There are also times when most of us feel lonely. We want company, and I think that's for the most of the time, because after all, that's how we are programmed to be. Emotions. So emotions. The reason I don't like emotions is that, not because emotions are useless or irrational. I mean, I do not think emotions are irrational, and it's not just about what I think. Emotions are not irrational. That's a kind of proven fact in psychology, neuroscience, and in science in general. But and what purpose do emotions serve? Well, some emotions like fear and all. So if you they kind of aid in our survival. We are, after all, evolutionary creatures. We want to survive and reproduce so that our species continue. That's our like basic survival instinct. Of course, humans are much more complicated than other less complex creatures. So we do not just chase these survival and reproduction goals. most animals, if you want to model their behaviors, most animals, especially the very less complex ones, they just chase food, shelter, and they want to mate with their, they want partners for reproduction. These three are the guiding principles of the life. If you can model these three, you can model the behavior of most animals to a very great extent, to a very, very, very great and accurate extent. But humans, well, if you want to model the behavior of a human just under these three assumptions, that humans need food, shelter, and reproduction, you will have a very poor and terrible model, because humans are much more complex, and humans often override the evolutionary goal. I mean, we humans, we chase cultural. I mean, we have cultural stuff, the social stuff, and we chase some ideologies, some symbolic ideas, some ideologies and all, and we chase them so intensely that humans are even ready to sacrifice their lives for that. We humans are, we just don't come here and we just, okay, just give me enough food, give me enough shelter, give me someone to mate with, and I'm happy. That's my life. No, we create our own meaning for somebody. Someone finds meaning in art, someone finds meaning in science, someone finds meaning in philosophy, spirituality, and all these things. None of these, most of these things, they do not directly help in your survival or reproduction. Yet these things matter most to humans. Many humans even choose to give their life for that. No human will, just, so you understand what I'm getting at. So it's much more difficult to model human emotions, and emotions model human behavior. And I think emotions play a very important role here, because emotions guide our decision making to a very great extent. And this is all proven in psychology. Many psychological studies actually show this. For instance, what I was getting at, one emotions like fear, they help us, they aid us in our survival. Because suppose I'm in the middle of the road, and a car is approaching at very high velocity. If I don't feel the fear and if I don't jump back, then I might die, or I might be hit by the car. I might get injured. That's not what evolution wants, right? Of course, there is also some basic instinct that's working in me when I jump back from a oncoming car, or when I pull back my hand if I touch a very hot object. It's not because of the emotion called fear or the emotion called pain or something. It's also some hardwired instinct is also at play here. But I mean, emotion also plays a role here, not the only role, but emotion does play a role here. And some other emotions, the more subtler emotions, like for instance love, that also has an evolutionary origin. So we love because we want to reproduce. I mean, see, many animals don't feel love the same way we humans do, and but they also reproduce, they also mate, and they, so why was love necessary for humans? The primary reason, I believe, is, and this is somewhat supported also, the primary reason I believe is that human babies require prolonged care. I mean, most wild animals, the mother just gives birth to the cubs or the babies, and they are like self-sufficient. I mean, they don't need the care that a human baby needs for proper upbringing, right? So in case of animals, the father and the mother do not really need to stay together and take care of the baby. So there is no emotional mechanism like love to bind them together. I mean, they do reproduce and they do have feelings for each other, but it's not like, no, you are my partner, I am loyal to you and nobody else. That kind of love we see in humans, like marriage and all. I mean, usually what we see in humans. That's not the true for animals. But for humans, it's love actually ensures that the parents stay close together even after the birth of their child, for a long time, so that that gives the child the best possible chances of survival, because the child needs prolonged care from both its parents. So the parents needs to stay together, and in good emotional health. So love is kind of a natural mechanism that ensures that. Beyond that, I don't think any emotion has any meaning. I have said in a lot of my videos that emotions are meaningless. Yeah, I do believe emotions are meaningless. Love just serves us evolutionary goal. But if you think that that person is special in my life, that person understands me, nobody understands you, not even you yourself understand. I think this can be said for everyone, of course in varying intensities, but I think I can safely claim that nobody understands you, whoever you are. Nobody understands you, not even yourself, because you are you are a byproduct of billions of neurons interacting in your brain, and it's a like a, there's an amount of stochastic noise, randomness, and you cannot understand you in the sense that you cannot really assign some purpose to your actions. Okay, I did that because I want that. It's not possible to understand yourself that way. Even you cannot do that, leave alone anybody else. That person is not special to you. You may love that person, but you are doing it for evolutionary instincts, and that person is, maybe that person loves you back. That is also due to evolutionary instincts. It's not because you two were made for each other or anything. So in that sense, yeah, emotions are meaningless. Okay, because most humans assign emotions, associate emotions with some personal value. So in that sense, emotions are meaningless. I'm not saying they don't serve any purpose, but my point is, see why I say emotions are meaningless, but they're not irrational. Because if you want to understand how a human behaves, then you have to, understand emotions. And that's why like for instance, one very good illustration of this would be the trolley dilemma. There's a famous thought experiment called the trolley problem. So let's say it's a kind of a dilemma situation. Let me tell you why. Let's say there's a railway track and a trolley, which with malfunctioning brakes, it's overspeeding down the railway track, and there are four railway workers who stand in the track. So if the trolley is not diverted to a different track, then the four workers would die, because the track is at very high velocities. The four workers don't have, just assume that the four men who are standing, the railway workers, they don't have enough time to move away from the track. And there is only one alternate track, and there is a lever to divert the trolley or the cart, whatever, to this different track. And you are standing at the lever, so you have the power to pull the lever and divert the track to divert the cart to a different track, and thus you can save the four men. But on this different track, there is a single man who's standing. So you kill him. I mean, he dies. So would you pull the lever? So the dilemma is, because if you do pull the lever, then you save four lives, but you kill one life. This is actually murder, because you are pulling the lever, so you are directly responsible for the death of this single man who was standing in the second side track, right? But if you do nothing, then four men die, which is very bad. But you are not responsible for their deaths, because the trolley was just coming anyways. Like you didn't do anything. So it's kind of a moral dilemma. Some part of you would feel like, no, if I let four men die, I could have prevented that, so I am partly responsible. But in this case, you are directly responsible for a single death. On the other hand, four deaths seem much worse than a single death. So what should you do? Would you pull the lever? Now, most people say yes. When they are asked, most people say yes, they would pull the lever in this scenario. Now, let's consider the exact same situation, but slightly in a different different setting. This time, there is only a single railway track. There is no, you cannot divert the trolley. There is no lever. But beside the track, there is a tower, and on the tower you stand, and in front of you, a very fat man stands, a bulky man stands. So if you push the man from the tower, he would, just a thought experiment, he would fall on the railway track, and since he is very fat and bulky, that would be sufficient to stop the trolley, which is overspeeding. And if you stop the trolley, then you save the four men who are standing further down the railway track. So again, you have the option of four deaths versus one death. But if you want to save four lives, you have to murder this one person. You have to push the fat man to his death. It's no different actually. Logically, it's exactly the same as the first scenario. Yeah, there you're just pulling the lever, and here you're just pushing the man. But ultimately, you're causing one death to save four lives. Same thing. But however, as studies reveal, in the second case, most subjects say that no, I will not be able to push the man to his death. So what changed? Logically, the situation are the exact are no different. So if somebody says yes in the first case, they should you would expect them to say yes in the second case also. But no, in many cases, in most cases actually, even though they say yes in the first case, they say no in the second case. Why? Because when you're thinking about physically pushing a man to his death, the regions in your brain that process your emotions, they get activated. But when you're thinking about just pulling a lever, even though you are actually causing the death of the person, but your brain does not associate pulling a metallic, a machine or an inanimate object like a lever. Your brain does not associate that with emotions. But here you're physically pushing the person to his death. Now this shows how unconsciously emotions guide us in our decision making, moral decision making, and even day-to-day life decision making. Which is why if you want to understand a human, emotions are very important. And that's why I never say emotions are irrational. Even I actually give a lot of effort to understand emotions. Currently I'm also working on a mathematical model. I cannot tell exactly what, because this is a kind of, it's not yet published and all, but I'm working on a mathematical model to model emotional dynamics and relationship dynamics, how emotions and the relationship, feelings towards each other. Emotions means my own internal emotions. In my model, it's the internal dynamics, emotions, and feelings are the external dynamics, how I feel for someone else, friend or enemy, whatever. There are a lot of possible scenarios, and also I'm just using a set of coupled differential equations to model that answer. Point is, I give a lot of time and effort to understand human emotions. But you may ask that I always claim that emotions are meaningless. Then why do I give this effort? Because I think it's important to understand emotions, even if emotions are meaningless. Even if emotions do not have inherent meaning, I always like to detach myself from emotions, because emotions usually do more harm than good, in my case at least. I cannot say for others. But detaching myself from emotions does not mean I will not study emotions. See, there is a difference. the philosophy now, I'm slowly getting at the ultimate crux of this video. That's, does God play dice? So I have, from a very young age, I have faced a lot of kind of, people have cornered me. People have, in my school, I'm saying, nobody usually, I also wanted to get accepted by my friends, by my peers. That's what an ordinary 10-year-old kid would want, 10 or 12-year-old kid would want, right? Somehow that didn't work out, maybe due to my mistake, maybe because I was on a different level than them. I didn't laugh at their jokes, I didn't find their jokes funny. I was always thinking about abstract concepts like consciousness when I was in high school, while they were talking about the latest trends in movies or sports. So things didn't click between us. Maybe it was my fault, or maybe they couldn't accept me, or maybe I was not, whatever, either way. So from then on, I started, kind of inwardly, I'm sorry, so I inwardly kind of always questioned myself, not myself, but I kind of questioned, I had these questions like, is human behavior, like, what really governs human behavior? I mean, why me? I mean, why am I singled out while everybody seems to have a friend? But why am I always sorted out? Why do people wear this artificial mask in front of me? They just talk to me only as much as necessary, and they just kind of, they always talk behind my back. That's the, it's not just a kind of paranoid, or kind of just I used to feel that way, but that was actually true. I saw that, or I got evidence of that in many instances, and this continued. But after a point, I think I shared this story in one of my previous videos, but I'll just go over it very briefly, because I'm not sure whether you have watched that video or not, right? And this will only make my story, my views more complete, and more kind of more acceptable to you, if you listen to the entire thing, probably, I don't know. So after a point, I stopped trying to fit in the crowd, and then I kind of found a little bit of, I shouldn't say arrogance, but a little bit of pride in being different. No, maybe I was meant for something else. I was not meant for, hanging around with friends and living an ordinary life. And I've done a lot of stuff which most people won't say ordinary for a person of my age and of my background. So yeah, that's true. But I'm not saying, I'm not kind of flexing or anything. That's the way I was, like, my surroundings, society and my surroundings played an important role in shaping me who I am. Whether I have a lot of bad qualities, which I admit I have a lot of bad qualities, which are not apparent if to you, which will never be apparent to you if you only watch my YouTube videos, if you don't know me personally. So I'm not a perfect person. Yeah, on the superficial level, I might seem to be a very, like, physics aspirant, and always talk about physics, very curious kind of individual. I am curious, but if you judge me based on my YouTube videos, I might seem to be a more positive person than I actually am, because I do have some things, some flaws, which I realize they are flaws, but I cannot change them. It's very difficult to change them at times, very difficult to control them at times. But the point is, so that's the reason emotions never worked out for me. On the contrary, whenever I shut myself out from people and stopped feeling either positive or negative emotions, suppose used to feel jealous towards someone in school, I stopped caring about that. Or I used to feel like kind of positive emotions, like not love really, but yeah, I liked someone, but they didn't reciprocate my feelings. That also I stopped caring. Like, I mean, I shut myself completely from all kinds of emotion. And you know what happened? That is when I started exploring these deep questions, physics, and then that led to one thing and another, and I carved out a path for myself. Yeah, writing articles, writing books, founding journals, and this actually has given me a platform. Like today, there are a few people who actually respect. There are actually quite a lot of people within my acquaintances who respect me, who consult me, who value my opinions, but none of them love me as a friend. I mean, I don't mean love me as a, like, not that romantic love, but even as a friend, none of them love me. And I have talked with this too with a few of my close friends and parents or whatever, and some of them are of the opinion that apparently my level does not match with their level, so that's why they are afraid, or they're kind of they respect me too much that they cannot think of me as an ordinary friend. They just think of me as someone to, to look up to get inspired by, and that kind of one, but not as a friend. I don't know why, because I mean I am usually very approachable. If you approach me about physics or anything, I'm usually, and I even crack jokes, and I mean I'm not a robot, I'm not a mindless robot. But yeah, since these things have never worked out for me, I have stopped caring about that. Now my point is, that does not mean I think I will not study emotions, because I have detached myself from emotions, because that gives me the best personal results. But the fact still remains that these billions of people on earth, they are governed by emotions. So if I want to understand humans, which I have to do at some level or the other to succeed in my career, and also like not just career, to live a normal life, and not just that, to know the truth, that is my that has always been my ultimate goal in life. The reason I chose physics over more conventional and maybe more easier paths in the sense, I would have got a job sooner probably. But the reason I chose physics is I always truth has always been the primary motivation for me. Truth. So why? Because and when I say truth, it's not just about that quantum gravity. What is the theory of everything? Not that kind of truth. That is just a theoretical model. As always say, physics is not reality. Physics only models reality. The apple does not fall down because of Newton's law. I mean, if Newton didn't give the law, then the apple would still have. I mean, Newton's law only models this behavior, but the apple actually falls down because this behavior is in sync with the way the universe evolves. But if we go very deeply and ask why exactly is the universe the way it is and not something else, I personally think, and I have reasons to believe this, that you cannot get this answer in a single well-defined deterministic equation that physics can give. I don't think so. I mean, it's not a problem of today. I don't think you will ever find such an equation or such a theory, deterministic, well-defined theory, which is completely devoid of randomness, that can answer every fundamental question. I don't think so, because at some level we have to accept that some features of the universe are the way they are because that is the way the universe evolves. There is no we cannot expect that to be everything to be explained by some more fundamental scientific fact. We have to stop somewhere, right? So in that case, when I say I want to know the truth, that's not the only truth I mean. That's a very important truth, of course, but I also, by truth, I also mean some deeper patterns in the way humans interact. And what does this tell us about consciousness, about, or not just consciousness, even something less abstract? What does this tell us about networks, topology, social dynamics, and any kind of dynamics is often modeled as networks and topology using various topologies, right? So what can we say about the fun about I mean, can we find some fundamental patterns by looking at human behavior and all? Of course we can, but how to interpret those patterns? And even by talking with people, seeking the truth is not just about shutting yourself in a room and solving equations of quantum gravity. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want to know the truth, you have to go out and talk to people and observe people. That is what I'm doing actually. That is what I do actually. It's not like I don't talk to people. I don't feel comfortable talking to people, and I don't have someone like that true friend kind of thing. But that doesn't mean I isolate myself. I talk to people, I interact with the people a lot. For me, I personally find it easier to interact with people I don't know and on some objective topic like physics. I mean, if I just meet someone and I just in a conference, in a summer school, or anything, I find it comfortable to talk about physics with them. But if I meet an old acquaintance, and maybe if we have shared some emotional ups and downs in the past life, then I find it a bit uncomfortable to talk with that people, because I'm sure that person is not going to talk about physics, and that person is going to talk about something which I most certainly will find meaningless and a waste of my time. So yeah, I even find more, this is very kind of I don't know if this is, but might sound kind of weird, but I'm more comfortable to public speaking. I mean, I'm more comfortable giving a presentation or delivering a talk from the stage in front of a large audience than individual one-on-one discussions. It's actually true, because then of course, there is a little amount of social anxiety, public speaking, the fear of public speaking and everything. And especially if it's a presentation with a time constraint, then it's a bit difficult, because you have to keep track of the time, and you have to cover like 20 slides in 10 minutes or something. But apart from that, once I start talking from the stage, I am comfortable, because I'm not associating myself with an individual. I'm talking to an audience. So, and I'm talking about something objective. So that emotional part, which I have always had trouble with, is not coming into play. Yeah, of course the audience asks me questions, but then also it's a kind of open discussion, in objective discussion. The audience will not ask me an emotional question after I give a scientific presentation, right? That's the point. But for one-on-one interactions, it's like the interaction might be more unpredictable, might take a more unpredictable turn at any moment. So that's why I avoid it. I mean, of course, most people find this crazy, because oh my god, we talk with the friends one to one daily. That's nothing to be afraid of. But oh my god, I'm giving a talk in front of so many dignitaries on the stage. That should be more frightening, and that is more frightening to most people in my experience, but not me. Yeah. So finally, let's move to the final part of the video. So yeah, does God play dice? I have no answer, of course, but I think if I had to give an answer, I mean, what I personally feel about this, because I know you guys want an answer. There are millions of videos on YouTube. We just start with a question but end with an ambiguous answer, like maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, why even like? I mean, we want a definite answer. At least tell what you think. I know you may not be true, you may not be correct. Nobody knows the answer, but at least tell what you think. Even I know the answer would be either yes or no. So then why, what is the point of watching your video? So I get that feeling. I have felt that way a lot of times. So yeah, I'll share with you what I personally think. First of all, does God play dice? By this question, we are not talking about any God. I mean, this question does not assume the existence of a supernatural being with purpose. Yeah, you could refer to the laws of physics as God. You could refer to the driving force behind the evolution of the universe as God. But those are all spontaneous. The universe evolves spontaneously. There are some guiding optimization principles, like entropy is maximizing, entropy is increasing. So these are principles that guide the evolution of the universe, but they do not control the evolution of the universe. Even the second law of thermodynamics is a statistical law. I have made a video recently on Boltzmann brain and all. You should watch it if you're interested. The point is, the universe evolves the way it does because it wants to, simply because that's spontaneous. Like I said, you cannot hope to understand everything based on some set of axioms and or scientifically based on your experiments or your theories. It's not possible, right? So then my point is, by God, when you're asking does God play dice, what do we even mean by God? That is my question. First of all, by God, then the best we can say is that by God we mean these guiding principles, or something that is guiding. Something means may not be conscious, but something that is guiding the evolution of the universe, but not controlling it or not doing it for a purpose. Because that's not what happens. That I mean, that's the most likely view. I mean, there are some religious person who would disagree, but that's the most likely view. That's the view I believe, at least. So for me, God is that kind of the laws of physics, you could say, very roughly if I translate. So now the question becomes, does the laws of physics play dice? Or if I just slightly rephrase it, are the laws of physics random? The laws of physics playing dice means the outcomes are not are random. So when God is playing dice, the actually the meaning of that question, does God play dice? That means even God has no control over the universe, or not total control. When God plays dice, God knows that the outcome must be either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 if it's an unbiased die. But the God cannot predict what outcome he will get after each throw of the dice. It could be any number between 1 and 6, any integer between 1 and 6, right? So that, does God play dice? If the answer is yes, that means yeah, even God has no full control. So in that sense, yeah, I think the answer to this question would be God does play dice. Now, to what extent does God play dice? That remains to be seen. I mean, of course, this is just a figurative or qualitative question. Does God play dice? So my short answer would be, I believe yes, God does play dice. But a more detailed and a more kind of elaborate answer would be, see, for instance, so far whatever we have discovered about the universe, even the very fundamental laws, the universal truths, kind of, what we can roughly call God in our context, in the context of our discussion. Uh, Either, I mean, mostly we have been guided by two kind of approaches. One is the theoretical approach, the theory, and one is experiment, right? So I think it all started when people observed that there is some repetition in the world. By repetition, I mean regularity. So people observe that if I throw a stone upward, it falls down, and if I throw a ball upward, it also falls down. If I try to throw myself upward, that means if I jump, then I also fall down. So there is a universal pattern here. I mean, it seems obvious to us today, but I think about the very early philosophers and scientists. There was a pattern because they could have expected. I mean, if they kind of expected that different objects behave differently, back in their time, that would be a valid assumption because they don't know the difference. I mean, they don't know the underlying principles. They don't know physics or anything. They are seeing that, oh my god, this is a human being, such different. I mean, this is a human being which is vastly different from a rock or a stone. Yet both of these things, when thrown up, they come down. Right? This is a kind of order or regularity in the world. If I rub two stones, I get fire. Today, now. If I rub two stones tomorrow, I will again get the fire. It's not like today if I rub two stones, I get fire, but tomorrow it's not working. It doesn't, just work sometimes and not work other times. It's a regular pattern. So all of these kind of motivated human to formulate some universal laws that can apply to a wide range of apparently different phenomena or objects. The law of gravity applies to everything, right? It's the same law, universal law. That's why it's called universal law. It applies to the moon and the earth and the sun, and also to a rock falling towards, or an apple falling towards the earth. It applies in all the three cases. Though the cases are vastly different in scope and everything. So yeah, there is some order in the world, of course. Of course, there is some order in the world. And now the relation between theory and experiment, that's again an interesting kind of area to explore, because theory cannot give us all the answers, obviously, because theories are subject to our psychological and cognitive limitations. Whatever theories we are forming, we are refining our theories based on experiments, we are modifying our theories, and we are advancing more and more and more with time. But still, every human is subject to certain cognitive and psychological limitations which even a genius cannot overcome. So there will, I believe personally, there will always be some aspects of the universe, some very deep aspects which no theory can exactly incorporate. No matter how fundamental a theory is, even if it's a theory of everything or whatever, how unified a framework it is, it cannot explain everything. Maybe it can give us a very good unified picture of the fundamental interactions, but it cannot explain the complex behavior of everything. So there will always be some amount of should I say randomness, or I mean something that will be beyond the reach of theory always. That's what I believe. As for experiments, well, again, here is a kind of an interesting question. Experiments, well, see, look, experiments, what do we mean by experiments? We carry out experiments to like kind of to study the nature, to study the real physical world around us, because to reveal the secrets of nature, to reveal the secrets of anything actually, you need to expose that thing to unusual and different conditions. If you want to know how am I as a human being, and if you just observe me but do not provoke me, then you will only you will only observe one side of me. You will not understand the full me. To understand how am I as an overall person, sometimes you may behave strangely with me. So just to see how I react, that will tell you a lot about how am I as a person. Sometimes you may behave angrily with me, sometimes you may behave in a positive way. And I mean, you can do a lot of things with me, and not just for humans. Even when you're doing a chemical test, chemical reactions, right? Often you suppose you are given a compound and you are asked to identify it. You subject it to various tests. You litmus test for acid or base and all these things. Now, without doing experiments, you will not be able to tell whether this was an acid or base. Now, this works very fine for these kind of examples like chemistry and even in physics in a lot of cases. But my point is, at the very fundamental level, even experiments cannot give you all the answers. I mean, not even in theory. I mean, not even in principle, because yeah, my logic is when you're doing an experiment, you are getting after you do the experiment, you get some results, and based on the results, you form a picture of the reality. But how can you be sure that this is the reality? That this reality is the same as the reality that was before you perform the experiment. See, for an acid-based litmus test, it's okay. You have something in the container, you pour part of it as a litmus test, then you can determine whether it's an acid or a base. Because the thing that you poured on the litmus paper is the same thing that is in the container. That's fine. So that's okay. Experiments are very useful after all. I mean, experiments and theory, they both are equally and very much important for science. But I am saying for a much more fundamental level, not just a litmus test kind of experiment. At a much more fundamental level, to carry out experiments, I mean, there is always this uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics, right? And I am not only talking from a quantum mechanical point of view, that to do some experiment, you have to subject the system to some disturbance and all, the quantum measurement problem. I'm not just from that perspective. Even in general, at the fundamental level, you will get some results after doing some experiments. Experiment is a way of posing a question to nature and then kind of noting down what answer you get from nature. Right, that's what experiments are basically. But once you ask a question to nature, nature changes itself based on your question. And nature's answer reveals this new nature, not the nature that was before you asked the question. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. So if you want to know each and every aspect of reality very deep down, then I think even experiments will also not be sufficient. So neither theory nor experiment. And then there is the question of realism in quantum mechanics. Like realism is a very seems very obvious kind of an assumption. Like even before you make a measurement, the measurement values exist. It's kind of obvious. Even if I don't measure the speed of a vehicle, the value of the speed, I mean this the state of the vehicle exists. Suppose the car is moving at 30 kilometers per hour, but I make no measurement. I just know it. So if I make no measurements, the car would still be moving at 30 kilometers per hour. You would not expect the car to be in a superposition of 30, 40, and 15, I mean many different speeds. But that is what happens in quantum mechanics. It has been verified experimentally. Card is a macroscopic object, a big object, that's a different thing. But that is what happens in quantum mechanics. Realism is not true. I mean, many scientists believe realism is not true, and discarding the truth of realism is definitely a very acceptable way of interpreting the results. Yeah, there are some theories which claim realism to be true. I mean, it's a bit basically a trade-off between localism and realism. If you look at Bell's inequality, Leggett-Garg inequality, point is actually the Bell's inequality deals with localism and realism. Localism says that no interaction can be faster than the speed of light. Information travels at the speed of light. So that's also a very valid assumption, and that is also proven in special theory of relativity. Now my point is, so even realism cannot be true. That means I just say that experiments cannot reveal the true nature of reality, but even the true nature of reality can itself be random. And by random I mean resistant to experiment. I mean even before the experiment it was totally random. So there is nothing to determine, there is nothing to find out by doing the experiment because it is all random anyway. You can find out a lot by doing experiments, but those kind of experiments we have already done or are doing. But there will be some experiment. I mean, there will be some aspects of reality which are totally random. So, doing experiments to understand those aspects would be pointless because it's totally random. There is nothing to understand. That's what I'm saying. So, given all of this, I think God does play dice. I mean, that's my view anyway. It's still possible. Let me just also kind of briefly tell you what the alternative is, and the alternative cannot be entirely ruled out today. It's still possible that there is that in the future we will discover a very deep and unifying theory which will kind of which will kind of dissolve the apparent randomness in our current theories. So the apparently what seems random to in our current theories, random or this kind of stuff, maybe this deeper theory will explain all of this very rigorously from more fundamental principles, and it's not really random at all. Randomness, it only appears random at our level. It could be the case that deep down it's deterministic, just like the randomness dissolves at our level, the quantum uncertainty dissolves at our level. Just like you don't expect a car to be in a superposition of states. Why? Because de Broglie's relation doesn't work for large objects. I mean, it does work technically. Even a car has wave particle duality, but we cannot perceive it because the wavelengths associated with the wavelengths of our measuring instruments that cannot capture the wave particle duality of a car or any macroscopic objects. That is one thing. One more thing is that a car or any macroscopic object, for instance this laptop, this table, whatever, they are like a lot of atoms, a lot of quantum particles join together to form these macroscopic large objects. So if one quantum particle collapses, this is the superposition time, right? The superposition time is inversely proportional to the number of particles. So if it's a huge number of particles, then all the particles will collapse very quickly, and you will not kind of observe the time scales we are familiar with. We will not observe the superposition behavior because it has already collapsed, and since all the particles are coupled together, the entire wave function will collapse. It's all correlated, right? So so quantum mechanics exposes the randomness in the universe, even though at our level the universe does not appear to be that uncertain or random. Similarly, there may be a theory in the future which will expose the order in the universe very very deep down, even deeper than quantum mechanics, from which we can understand this randomness in quantum mechanics to be an emerging feature. That can also be the case. So yeah, if that is the case, then Einstein was right that God does not play dice. Or I think, but personally I think, yeah, God does play dice in the sense that there is no supernatural being sitting above us and just throwing a dice. Of course not. The meaning of God playing dice is there is some fundamental randomness in our theories and in the universe itself. And I think from a practical point of view, for us, God would always play dice because of our cognitive limitations. Even if the universe is like deterministic deep down, we will never be able to appreciate that because we will never be able to examine the universe from a third person perspective. We are part of the universe. We are part of not just the universe. We are part of this. Like we cannot get out of this confined biology, of this confined mind, consciousness, or this body. Then we die. That's the best we know for today. That death is the end of us. So that's also very like kind of difficult. And yeah, one more thing is that about free will and determinism. I my views about free will and determinism is somewhat you not I won't say unique, but it's not like I believe in free will or I believe in determinism. No, I neither believe in free will, neither believe in determinism, and that is allowed scientifically because what I believe is that deep down the universe is random, so it's not deterministic. I don't believe in determinism, but that doesn't mean free will because I cannot consciously control that randomness to get the outcomes I want. So then how can I have free will? I mean, I have no control over the randomness. That randomness is building up, and even the particles I am made of, they also are subject to the same laws. So as a human being, as a conscious being, I do not have free will. All the parts of my brain are connected physically. The brain is a physical brain tissue, it's a physical thing. All these neurons, synapses, chemicals, neurotransmitters, they are physical things. This brain is tangible, it's physical, it's not just a feeling or not just a mathematical construction. It's a physical organ which is functioning in our body, right? So if I take an action now, suppose if I like close this, if I switch off this PC in front of me now, if I just stop recording the video, it might seem that I have free will. It's my free will. I decided to do it, so I did it. That's my free will. But this decision, see, first of all, this thought formed somewhere in my brain. We don't yet exactly fully understand how a thought forms in the brain, but it's likely due to some particular neurons firing in some particular patterns and giving rise to, and kind of some triggers, some memories and all this thing, and then giving rise to some particular neurons firing, and then this is channeled through my motor neurons, which control my muscle movements, and to my hand, so that I will raise my hand and switch off, end this video. But it's all physical. I mean, it's not just it's tangible, it's physical, because I am acting based on this so-called free will, based on this thought. I'm acting based on this. I have the power to switch off this laptop right now. That is my point. So if it's physical, that means it is kind of directly or indirectly, it is physically connected to every other brain region and every other part of my body. So no part is really free. So I cannot exercise free will. It's all interconnected dynamics. That is my logic. I feel it's my decision. I feel I am free. I have free will, because that see, free will serves as a very useful concept, very useful social concept. If people suddenly started believing that they have no free will, then people would just murder and like commit all sorts of horrific crimes and say that I have no free will, so I am not the criminal. I mean, there would be no law and order. It would be total chaos, and such a society would not be stable, and that would not serve the purpose of evolution as well. So we have this feeling. I mean, we feel it's our free will, and that is a very useful concept pragmatically. But scientifically, I think no, there is no free will. But the universe is not deterministic either. That is my views. And so yeah, in my journey of truth, in my journey of seeking the truth, which I've been doing for all these years, for the last 5 years at least, for the last five, actually last 6.5 years, if I'm very honest. It started when I was in my ninth standard. So ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 3 years of my undergraduate. So sometimes, let me be very honest with you, sometimes it feels very pointless. But because this is the truth, this is not the truth I envisioned. It's not like I will get access to a single equation which will tell me everything, and why and every how it will answer. No, it's not possible technically. So it might sound very kind of awe-inspiring. Oh my God, I'm searching for the ultimate truth of the universe, but there is no ultimate truth. There is no definitive ultimate truth. There is always some randomness. So then you might ask, I feel this way at times, even I feel this way at times. What's the point of searching for truth? It's possible to get some insights, of course, but yeah, I mean, what's the point? What's the big point? Then I tell to my I kind of counter myself. What's the point of anything at all? I mean, would I really be happier if I didn't choose this path, and if I just chose a more conventional path? No, the answer is no. I'm not happy even now, but I am still as happy as I can be. Definitely, I would not be happier if I chose some other path. So that is the kind of consolation I give me whenever I feel what's the point of searching for the truth. And there is also kind of a very strange kind of beauty in this. I mean, in if all of our questions are answered, what would really remain for us at the end of the day? I mean, if I know that there is always some randomness, there is always some kind of almost like mystery, and something which will always be beyond our reach. That adds a whole level of artistic, or I don't know, like mystic appeal, a whole level of appeal to this entire quest, which is lacking in any other job or any other. Like if you're doing a corporate job or anything, there is no appeal. It's just you're just doing routine work. But here there's an appeal that I'm doing something which is full of mystery. And even I know I will not be able to find the ultimate answers. But that's what makes the journey exciting, not the destination, because we don't know what the destination is in the first place. It's just a journey. It's not a flight. Like where you're gonna land. You just take off and then just see where the plane takes you. That's the point of this entire thing. So yeah, I think again, this video was it turned out to be much more longer than I wanted it to be. It's 50 minutes, so I don't know how many of you will have the patience to. But yeah, anyway, I think let me not like kind of prolong it any longer. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. Does God play dice, or should we stop telling God what to do?